Things will be always things, but humans will change. This code was simple and normal, right? That's right, it was simple and normal to the point of if you saw it somewhere, you would just read it and let it go. It would not attract you to think about it deeper. However, hear me out. Every cause does not simply says it always had a story behind it. In the world of science and civilization, the philosophy was almost forgotten by everyone. At the ancient moon city, there were twin brothers who had a complete different characteristic. A big brother, Fang Yuan, had a cold character, and a little brother, Fang Zheng, was a timid and unconfident person. There was a reason behind this. A big brother, Fang Yuan, was born with a talent. He was able to speak at the age of 3 months, be able to walk at the age of 4 months, be able to memorize things, and recite a poem at the age of 3 years old. Everyone praised him, and the officials in the city praised him in importance. He was treated like prince in the city that every adult praised and admired. The young people respected and envied. As for the little brother, Fang Zheng, he was worth nothing compared to Fang Yuan. He was not talented, and he was even lacking behind the same age children. Everyone in the city could not recognize him. The only thing they knew was he was the little brother of genius Fang Yuan. For his name, everyone did not bother to remember. At the age of 3, their parents died in a war to protect the city. Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng became orphans. Imagine how could the 3-year-old children live in such environment? It is hard. But the thing was, they did not have that bad day because they still have the aunt and the uncle left. Their aunt and uncle did not have children. As a result, they adopted Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng later. Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng were supposed to have good lives. However, the thing was not that way because the aunt and the uncle were not good guys, and they thought Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng lived in a harsh environment. How harsh it was! Imagine Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng had to sleep in a cold bed at night, and they did not even have enough food to eat. One day, Fang Yuan couldn't stand it anymore, and he said, "I must try harder. I couldn't let my little brother and I to suffer like this." And then Fang Yuan tried hard, and his talent was revealed. He could memorize things and recite a poem at the age of 3. And it is so made the aunt and the uncle happy because a 3-year-old child to be able to memorizing things and recite a poem was not a simple matter anymore. The aunt and the uncle then had a conversation. This Fang Yuan must be a great scientist in the future. We must raise him well. After that day, the name of Fang Yuan was famous throughout the city. Everyone in the city recognized him as a genius, and it was natural when one becomes famous, one's life would be better. Fang Yuan's life changed a lot, from sleeping in a cold bed to a soft and warm bed, and with a beautiful and cute maid to serve him. His aunt would always cook a good meal for him, and his uncle would support him in every aspect. Although the aunt and the uncle were not the richest people in the city, They made sure Fang Yuan lived a life better than most of the children from rich families. On the little brother's side, Fang Zheng, with a virgin from his big brother, he did not have to sleep in a cold bed anymore, and he had enough food to eat. However, this treatment was still far from his big brother. Fang Zheng had to wake up early every morning to cook for himself because he did not have a maid like his big brother. And Fang Zheng had to do every chore for himself. As a big brother, Fang Yuan was not a hustless person. In fact, he cared a lot about his little brother. How could he let his little brother to suffer like that? As of now, Fang Yuan has the capable to protect and give a better life to his little brother. Fang Yuan took this opportunity to ask his aunt and uncle for a maid to his little brother. The aunt and the uncle didn't like the useless Fang Zheng, but they didn't want to make Fang Yuan unhappy. In the end, they had to give Fang Zheng a maid. However, a maid for Fang Zheng was the old and fat woman, which was completely different from Fang Yuan's. Though differences in treatment made Fang Zheng as a little brother develop a timid and unconfident habit. He had to live behind his big brother's shadow, and this shadow is bigger and bigger as time passes, until the twin brothers reached 12 years old. On this day, it was an important day for every 12 years old child because it was an examination day to join the school. Every child who reached 12 years old had to enter school to study science and become scientists later. And this is the trend of this world that become a scientist is the greatest honor in life. As of now, Fang Yuan is washing his face with warm water, and his beautiful maid is standing in front of him. After Fang Yuan finished the process, she helped him dress. During dressing, she even used her palm breast to rub against his elbow or his back a few times to seduce him. Coincidentally, when Fang Zheng came over, he was in time to see a beautiful maid doing this dance. His eye had the figure of jealousy because he had long fallen for this girl. His aunt and uncle's biased love for his big brother was no secret to everyone, and although Fang Zheng was jealous, he did not dare to interrupt them, but the hatred in his heart has risen once more. Talking about examination, the examination is not hard. It is just to test the average knowledge about science. The first part, the teachers would give them the information to memorize, and the later part, they just need to answer the questions face to face with the teachers. There were a total of 4 subjects: chemistry, physics, math, and biology. And there were 4 grades A, B, C, and D to measure the potential. In an examination day, Fang Yuan, who everyone believed to have an A grade, turned out to be a mere C grade. A C grade was only the average grade in the school. Most of the children who participated in this examination were all C grade. What does this mean? It means that a hope of a city to have a great scientist in the future is collapsed immediately in front of them. Everyone glared at Fang Yuan with amazement, shock, sneering, and some taking pleasure at this unfortunate event, some indifference. It was the situation making Fang Yuan unwilling. Remember, at this moment, in Fang Yuan's heart, he felt as if the sky had fallen. When he crossed the cold river, he lost his footing and fell, soaking his entire body in the water. Feeling so lost, no one came forward to help him up. Those disappointed, cold expressions and gazes were like sharp knives, piercing into his very own heart. His mind was in chaos, his chest searing with pain. It was as if he has fallen from the clouds down to the ground. The higher you stand, the harder you fall. However, the most twisted part was his little brother, Fang Zheng, turned out to be the only person with a great potential in this generation. This shocking news made the entire city to be shocking, stunning. The older brother, Fang Yuan, fell from the clouds, the title of genius mercilessly destroyed, and the younger brother, Fang Zheng, began to bloom with radiance, slowly rising up like a new star. After all, an great potential was hard to find. It could be 10 years, 20 years, or maybe 100 years. After that day, a big brother, Fang Yuan, became a drunkard. He would always drink at night and sleep in the class. In daytime, the teachers seemed to understand his situation, so no one blamed him. It was until a month of time a little brother could not stand it anymore. He stopped his big brother on the road in the city and called out to his big brother from behind, "Big brother, you really did go to the tavern and buy alcohol. Follow me back to home. Aunt and uncle want to see you." Fang Yuan stopped in his tracks and turned around. He found his younger brother was no longer like before. A younger brother who was timid and unconfident. A younger brother who was always lowering his head as he spoke. Right now, the two brothers gazed at each other face to face. Just a short period of 1 month gone by, yet human changed. To the younger brother, Fang Zheng, this sort of change was earth-shaking to his world. He finally tasted the feeling that his big brother used to have. The feelings of people pinning their hopes on him. The feelings when people use envious and jealous looks to gaze at him. He felt like he was suddenly dragged out from a dark corner and picked into a heaven filled with light. Every day when he woke up, he felt like he was having a very sweet dream. The differences of how he was being treated from before and now was like day and night, making him somewhat unable to believe his reality even until now. But at the same time, also strongly unaccustomed to it. It was hard to adapt. In a short while, from being unknown to someone who was closely watched, people pointing at him all the time. Sometimes, when Fang Zheng walked on the road, he would hear people around him talking about himself, voice praising him. His face would heat up and he would always feel completely at a loss of what to do. His eyes trying to avoid grace, even almost forgot how to walk properly. As for his appearance, Fang Zheng now became thinner, yet his energy became more vigorous from the inner depths of his heart. Something called self-confidence began to manifest. Fang Zheng said to himself, "This is what Big Brother has always been feeling before, how beautiful and how painful at the same time." He could not stop thinking about his big brother Fang Yuan facing such an attention and discussion. How did his big brother deal with it? He subconsciously started to imitate Fang Yuan, pretending to look expressionless all the time, but quickly found that he was not fit for this kind of style. Sometimes, during class, a girl's shout could easily send him red face. On the road, all the flirting from older women even caused him to flee in a hurry many times. He was like a toddler learning how to walk, stumbling and falling as he tried to get used to his new life. During this entire process, he was unable to avoid hearing about his big brother falling into depression, becoming a drunkard, not going home at night, sleep soundly in the class. He felt very shocked at this. His own big brother, once a strong entity and held as a being of great genius, suddenly becoming like this? But slowly he started to sort of understand his big brother was also a normal man after all. Encountering this kind of setback and huge blows sent anyone into depression. Along with this understanding, Fang Zheng secretly felt an indescribable happiness inside. This feeling was something he was terribly unwilling to admit, but yet it definitely existed. His big brother, who was hailed as a genius and always covering him in shadow, acting so depressed and dispirited right now. From a reverse angle, this was a testimony to his own growth, wasn't it? He was the outstanding one. This was the real truth. Hence, when he saw Fang Yuan holding the white jars, his hair messy and clothes untidy, Fang Zheng felt relief, his breathing also becoming a lot easier, but yet he said, "Big brother, you have to stop drinking. You cannot go on like this. You have no idea how worried the people who care about you are. You need to wake up." As he said, Fang Zheng's eyes were shining, giving off a sharp and keen feel, and the big brother Fang Yuan's two eyes were a deep black. This eye could not help but make Fang Zheng feel a strange presence. Not long after, Fang Zheng subconsciously turned away his gaze and looked somewhere else. But when he realized it, he felt a sudden rise of anger. It was an anger that was directed at himself. "What's wrong with you? Can't you even muster the courage to look directly at your big brother?" "Oh, I've changed. I'm completely changed." With these thoughts, his eyes shifted back their sharpness and he shot his gaze at his big brother again. But Fang Yuan was already not looking at him. Holding a jar of wine in each hand, he walked past Fang Zheng and said in a dual voice, "What else are you gawking at? Let's go." Fang Zheng's breathing became disoriented. The strain that he accumulated inside his heart no longer able to be released. This made him experience a depression that was hard to describe. Seeing that his big brother has walked far ahead, he could only quicken his pace to catch up. By this time, his head was no longer lowered, but slowed to meet the sun's. His gaze was fixed on his own feet that were stepping on his big brother Fang Yuan's shadow. And this was things will be always things, but human will change.